What's in the stars and the cars ahead for you this week? Let's tune into this amazing energy because the cosmos is really turning the volume all the way up. If you've been feeling like life is really on fast forward, things are shaking up, things are coming in, things are leaving, you're not imagining it. We're going to take a moment in this time together to look at how you can ride these waves with grace and intuition. So I'm going to invite you as you hop on, say hello, let me know where you're watching from. It's always so much fun to gather together every Monday, 9:30 a.m. for the weekly energy weather report. Just take a moment to place your hand on your heart and let's just find out what is the most important message that you need to hear going into this week ahead. I'm going to just pull a card. Ace of Cups. It's all about love. Love is the answer. All you need is love, new love coming into your life. And this kind of piggybacks on last week when we got together, which is make your choices based out of love and not fear. And that's going to be a key as you go into this week, because this week ahead, as we're building towards that lunar eclipse energy, there's going to be a spiritual reset of sorts where you are being invited by the universe, God, source, whatever you call that name, that higher power for you, to have faith and to trust that if something is moving out of your life, it's making way for new opportunities for something even better to come in. The trick is, how do we navigate this without getting upset, without getting frustrated? And I'm hoping that my camera comes back into focus. Holy cannoli. Let's see. I'm going to take a moment just to figure this out. Okay. It's always interesting using new tech. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Aha, it worked. Thanks for bearing with me. So let's look at the week ahead. And by the way, if we haven't met, my name's Irena Miller. I'm an astrologer, a spiritual life guide, what I call an energy alchemist. And it is my joy to bring you the spiritual practices and sacred rituals that enable you to step into the life that you were born to live. Know that this week, it's really going to call on you to utilize the sacred practices that you're familiar with, to give you the opportunity to have faith and trust that surrender is not so much about giving up or about failure as it's saying, okay, wait a second. Let me realize that I might be on the wrong train and I need to get off. There's a wonderful Japanese proverb that says, if you're on a train and you realize, I'm going in the wrong direction, rather than ride the train all the way to the end of the track until it turns around, get off at the next stop. Don't keep riding. It's going to waste you time. It's going to waste you money. Just realize, I made a mistake or I was on the wrong path. Let me just get off and course correct. Eclipses are really like that, in the sense of, if we haven't noticed on our own, what ends up happening is the universe says, hey, you've been on the wrong track. Let me just encourage you to get off the train and switch tracks so that you can get to the destination that you've been asking about, praying about, wishing on, making intentions, making vision boards. We can get very frustrated when we're trying to co-create or manifest the life of our dreams. And we're like, it's not happening. What's going on? Hello, Hannah and JASY Romero. So great to have you. I love having you all here. Okay, so diving into this week, the really big theme of the week is letting go of rigid expectations and opening to divine flow. There's a lot of what's called mutable energy. So a lot of the energy in the heavens is encouraging you, be flexible, be adaptable. Don't feel like you've got to carve things in stone. If opportunities come your way, make sure that you're available to jump on them, or at least take a moment to meditate and contemplate, is this the right path for me? Know that we've got some big shifts with some of the planets. The planet of tradition, structure is moving in, and responsibility, which is Saturn, is moving into a place today of spirituality. It's saying we need to dissolve some of these old structures that may have been keeping you too rigid and maybe too buttoned up, to explore the spiritual practices that are going to enable you to be ready for this eclipse that's coming at the end of the week. And that's a really cool thing, is that I feel like the energy of the stars and the planets are lining us up for the eclipse that happens on Sunday, September 7th. And this eclipse is in Pisces. It's a full moon lunar eclipse. And all that means is there's a light, so to speak, being shone on the areas where we've been out of step. We've been out of alignment. Maybe we got comfortable. We're like, oh, if it ain't broke, why fix it? It's good enough. I can stick with this. But the universe is saying there's something so much bigger out there for you. Will you trust me? Will you be willing to let go, to surrender, so to speak, so that you have the room and space to receive? The other big thing that's happening is the planet of communication, thoughts, the way we think is shifting gears and moving into the energy of Virgo. So Mercury goes into Virgo. And all that means is that there's a very analytical approach and logical approach that comes in as we're bringing in this spiritual energy. And what I find so fascinating about that is, with Mercury, the planet of thought, in the zodiac sign of Virgo, which is analytical, practical, it's trying to fix problems, find solutions. What ends up happening is we could go into worry. We can get into anxiety. We can overthink things. So to have a practice that gets you out of your head, like, sure, okay, we can be practical, we can analyze something, but let's not get stuck in that circle of just going down a rabbit hole and not making any progress. If that happens, what I'm going to encourage you to do is take a moment to say, you know what, in the morning when I take my showers, or at night, whenever you do your bathing, imagine the water just washing away anything that's not yours, any of the worries, the thoughts, the opinions. And then just as the water's also running, you're bringing in just a beautiful golden light with it, maybe a little bit of blue for peacefulness, for clarity of your voice. And a practice like that can be really nice. If you can take it to the next level, bring in Epsom salts, like an Epsom salt bath or a salt scrub, things like that to really ground you so that the worry doesn't keep you spinning. The actual physical act of a spiritual practice or a ritual will calm the mind. The other thing that I love doing, I don't know, do you guys ever use mala beads, M-A-L-A? I'm going to say mine are over here. Let's see if I can reach them really quickly and not run away from me for too long. Got all my toys. Mala beads are very similar to rosary beads. Have you ever prayed the rosary? I do like to do that as well, even though I'm no longer Catholic. But the mala beads are nice. And what it does is mala beads just look like so, and you use them to help you keep on track, saying a mantra or an affirmation. And the repetitiveness of that behavior, that practice, will calm the mind. It'll give it something to kind of do. It'll give it work so that you can hear the spiritual guidance coming in. So just as an aside, if you're interested in finding out more about spiritual practices like the mala beads, let me know, especially using them for affirmations. I love, love, love that. So trying to see what else I know what I almost forgot to say. Big things coming up this week. Uranus, the planet of innovation, surprise, thinking outside of the box, is doing a big movement. He's kind of like slamming on the brakes on Saturday. So as we get closer to Saturday, you might find more information coming in, a new way of thinking of something, surprise, innovation that enables you to move forward in a whole different manner. I was listening to one of my teachers this morning, and she was saying, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting different results. So if you've been doing something and you're not getting the results that your heart is wishing for, utilize this week as a great time for spiritual reset and connection with those innovative thoughts that are coming in the practical Mercury mind that's going to enable you to find a different way to approach the task. You may have a different option in front of you. So I'm excited about that. Let me know in the comments if you've been feeling like you've been trying to accomplish something and it just hasn't been working, because sometimes, everything's going along just peachy and rosy. I know for myself, there's a lot of things I've been working on where I go, oh my God, why isn't it work? It should work. I'm following the formula that has been given, to the mass public. And that's kind of something cool that's also coming up this week. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit. But the Aquarian energy that we're all moving into and Uranus is the modern day ruler of Aquarius, but that Aquarian energy is really about coming together in community and doing things together, which is wonderful. But at times it can be like the Borg in Star Trek. Do you guys ever watch Star Trek: The Next Generation? I loved that way back in the day. And the Borg were like, resistance is futile. You will be assimilated. And sometimes I feel like that Aquarian energy is like, resistance is futile. You will be assimilated. And what the Aquarian energy is really kind of just reminded about is that the Leo, which is its complement or opposite, is saying, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm a unique individual. It's important that I can shine out even in the group. We all come in with the same gifts and talents and traits. If we all looked alike and acted alike and problem solved alike, that wouldn't work. An analogy to this that I also love. You ever watch any of the documentaries about trees? Love trees so much. And there were two documentaries out. One, I believe it was a German professor, and then a wonderful gal professor in British Columbia. And they had their own special documentaries where they were talking about trees. And I can't remember which one said it because I watched them at the same time. But they basically said, there's very newer old growth forests left. And what we can see and learn from the old growth forest in comparison to the newer forest, especially that maybe lumber companies or the like are planting, saying, oh, we're tearing down a bunch of trees, but we're planting new trees. The newer forests are all the same trees. Like they might just all decide, oh, we're planting this one species of tree, boom, 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 boom. And they're planting them kind of in rows and spaces that are very, measured. You can think very Saturnian, discipline, structure, just so Virgo, we're lining it up just perfectly. And the old growth forests are not like that. They're very diverse. There's lots of different species. They're kind of all over the place. You see that the taller trees will act as mentors for the little baby trees, helping grow their canopy so they don't get as much sunlight at times when, they're maybe sensitive to the sunlight, or they get more sunlight, they pull the canopies back. They take care. They feed the baby trees. They call it a kindergarten. It's amazing. They communicate through the fungal network. It's wonderful. So those old growth forests are thriving. The new growth forests, where it's all the same species of trees, are not doing as well because they are going into competition. They're coming up against each other. So what I want to invite you to do this week is, if you've been using a formula or routine, or let's say a model, like a business model, and you're just saying, wow, it's worked for everyone else. This is the gold standard. Saturn in Pisces is saying, it's time to dissolve that. You've been called to this life for something completely different. Trust. Are you willing? Are you willing to trust me? Are you willing to listen and have faith? And this is God universe saying it, not Irena. This is your connection with the divine, your very personal connection. Are you willing to trust? What does that look like? Because if you keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result, the path is just slightly off. What might need to be tweaked? You don't necessarily have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So I'm excited about this. I'm curious too. Are you guys in a place where you're looking for, more validation at work, or, just that moment to be seen and recognized? Are you looking for a shift maybe within the relationships, whether it's partnerships, a love match, where again, you feel like, I'm just dime a dozen. My grandmother used to always say, oh, she's a character and a half. And it's a bit of a long story, but it was like buying certain clothes and certain trends. She'd say, oh, I see myself coming and going. Because we're all wearing the same clothes. It's fun. That's a whole, boy, we could really go down this rabbit hole. I'm going to get myself back on track and go back to my notes. So we talked about big kind of overarching energy of the week. So Monday, I'm going to just highlight Saturn is moving into that Piscean energy. So things and structures, traditions that you've had built, they might start to dissolve in a certain way. It's kind of like that melting idea. Anchor yourself in a spiritual practice. Something like using the mala beads is great, or a nice long bath or shower. Mercury, the planet of communication and thought, is going to be bringing you more clarity clear thinking, essentially, helping you become better organized. But watch for going into anxiety or perfectionism, like overthinking things, overanalyzing. Go to your spiritual practices, especially something like the mala beads. It's that routine. Have you guys ever practiced any of the Sufi practices? And I know just a little because I studied a bit with someone where they spin. Well, that's good for proprioception too. So maybe you spin like the beautiful Sufis, or maybe you read some Rumi or Hafiz. Uranus, the planet of innovation, well, I say creativity. It's not exactly creativity, but I think of it as creativity because it's an innovation. It's thinking of something differently. He's going retrograde. So we're like slamming on the brakes on Saturday. So there are surprises that'll pop up this week. There might be a revelation about yourself, the way that you think through things. And you're like, oh my God, I never saw it like that. I always think it's so fascinating. You're like, oh, round peg, square hole. Well, I guess that would fit, but like square peg, round hole. Like I can't get it in. What's going on? Flip it upside down. Go upside down. That's a great thing too. Maybe you want to do legs up the wall. Just get yourself upside down. You're familiar with legs up the wall from the yoga practices where you can just kind of sit on a couch or your bed or the floor and you just swing your legs up the wall just to do something a little differently. Brush your teeth with the other hand. Take steps off the curb with the other foot. They're very simple spiritual practices like this. And I want to make things very practical, very approachable. So you don't have to go out and buy a bunch of tools or gizmos and gadgets. If you do like to do that stuff, because it is fun and I do it for sure, that's where my Energy Alchemist program comes in. We go deeper with that stuff. But we have everything we need right at our fingertips to really, truly connect to that piece. The eclipse that's coming up in Pisces, this is really the spiritual reset. It's encouraging you, let go, surrender, trust. This week is about being adaptable. If you've carved something in stone, the eclipse is going to say, it's kind of like, how to make God laugh, make plans. An old quote, something like that. We're lucky this week. We only have I say lucky, but I'm enjoying the moon voids, of course. We only have one big moon void, of course, where the moon isn't talking to any other planets, which means it's a great time for reflecting, journaling, journaling, meditating, re-energizing, a time to go inward, not to make big purchases, not to do anything brand new. And this comes before the eclipse. It's going to be Friday night all the way through until Saturday morning. So for specific times, get my notes out here, from 4:51 p.m. Eastern on Friday, so after the workday East Coast time, all the way until Saturday about noon Eastern. So just adjust for your time zones. And it gives you a chance to really kind of float. And then once the moon around noon on Saturday goes into that Piscean energy, we're starting to enter into the eclipse. And you're starting to kind of feel that window, but it's building. I mean, we've been affected by it the last 3 months. It's just coming to a head, coming to a crescendo on Sunday. All right, let's talk about each day of the week. So starting first with where the moon is. Moon on Monday starts out in Sagittarius. So there might be a desire to have a bit of an adventure. It's a holiday here in the States. People are off, barbecuing, having fun with friends, maybe getting outside. Great day for it. And I'm going to pull a card. How can you make the most of Monday's energy? Oh, Ace of Cups came up again. So the Ace of Cups, bring the love in. It's a day, and maybe it's new love that comes into your life. Be open to that love. You might find a new recipe that you love. You might discover, oh, I love pickleball. I've never played it before. Or cornhole. I never knew about cornhole until I moved out to the Midwest. They might have it in the East now, but let me know. Are you familiar with cornhole? There might be something like that. Something as simple and mundane as that, or it might be that you meet someone that you really just connect with. And you have that heart connection. Be open to love on Monday. Tuesday, moon is in Capricorn, which is interesting because that's also the day that Mercury goes into Virgo. So there's a very practical approach to Tuesday. If you had to get work done for business, if you had to be forward thinking, like you're wrapping up, getting ready for the last quarter of this year, preparing and maybe even planning for 2026. What am I going to do? What do I want to bring in? Tuesday is a good day to play with that. I would encourage you. I'm going to ask what's the most what's most important you need to know about Tuesday. Chariot, success, go for it. So this is the energy of victory. You being able to juggle multiple kind of energies, I'll say. The horses each want to go in their own direction, but the charioteer knows how to get them to work together to reach the end goal successfully. So that energy on Tuesday, the work that you do in the planning, the preparing, is going to get you ready for Wednesday to maybe take some action on it. The other thing about Wednesday's energy is that Mercury and Uranus are having a conversation with each other. So the planet of thought, thought, ideas, communication is like, oh, eureka with Uranus, innovation, surprise. So there might be a nice a surprise that comes your way. I'll put it that way. Maybe it's a new thought. Maybe it's a way to approach it. Like you say, oh my God, I never thought to just rotate this, and now the key fits the lock. I have a new shed and I can never get the key to fit into the lock properly. I'm always working with it. Wednesday moon still in Capricorn. So with that Wednesday energy, did I jump ahead? Holy cannoli, I'm getting so excited. Wednesday's when that surprise information will come through. You might get it on Tuesday. But Wednesday is when Mercury's having that conversation with Uranus. So let me pull a card and just ask, how can you make the most of Wednesday's energy? 8 of Swords. Don't let your thoughts keep you stuck. 8 of Swords is this girl. She feels like she's trapped. She feels like she's bound, and she's bound by swords, which is an element of air, which is thought. So interesting with what Mercury is doing. If you've gone into overanalyzing, overthinking, worry, anxiety, and your brain's like, oh my God, it'll never happen. It never worked in the past. And I can't try it this way. And oh my God, everybody else does it differently. And I don't know. And am I good enough? And whatever rabbit hole, you might be getting sucked down into, I want to invite you to realize that it's all an illusion. Here in her reflection, she feels like I'm all bound, I'm all tied. I've got the thoughts, which are the birds going chip, 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 the inner critic. Get out of your head. And one of the ways you can get out of your head is to move your body. And the other thing too that I'm really feeling called to say is hum. Just go, and hopefully that comes through with the recording. Never know which sounds get blocked out. But hum. If you like to sing, sing. But I'm going to encourage you to hum. If a thought comes into your head, that inner critic, that inner mean gal or guy, hum. Sing a happy tune. I just always think, when I was little, my mom was a singer. I am not a singer, but she was always singing to us, and she would sing the Sesame Street song, like sing a song, sing out loud, sing out strong. And how did it go? It was like, no matter if it's not good enough for anyone else to hear, just sing a song. And, you can do something like that. Allow the music to heal you, especially if there's something with like a beat, a pulsation to draw you out of the head. That'll help you change your thoughts. Music is powerful. All right, Thursday. So as we go into Thursday, it's an Aquarian moon. So the innovative ideas are going to come through. It's so interesting because Aquarius is about innovation. It is about thinking outside the box, but it also is for the good of all, for humanity, for the community. So that's where that like Borg assimilation energy can sometimes come in. So I'm going to just encourage you, as you're innovating and thinking outside the box, remember who you are. Ego's a good thing. It's not a bad, everything has a high vibration and a low vibration. Energy like ego reminds you of who you are so that you don't lose yourself in the crowd and make choices and decisions based on, like the little lemmings, like, oh, everybody's jumping over the cliff. I will too. Remember who you are, even in the crowd. And that the more diversity we bring to the crowd, the richer and deeper the experience is. Think of those old growth forests. And a card popped out for this. You're playing the long game. So the Empress is saying things are growing, things are happening, but it's the long game. Rome wasn't built overnight. It's not easy to have patience. It's not easy to wait. But what this card says is that all is coming. do your practice. Have faith. Pay attention to the rhythms and cycles of the moon, of the cosmos, and that what you are building is in gestation and it's waiting for the timing. It is a very fertile and abundant opportunity. Yeah. Hey, glad to have you, Huncho. All right. So Friday, moon still in Aquarius. We're still in that collective energy. I'm going to invite you to really practice discernment on Friday, to ask yourself, what are your thoughts versus someone else's? And you can do this just with simple grounding practices. And I'm going to put my favorite one in the comments and put it up on the screen, irenamiller.co/get calm. And that is just a gift from me to you that brings you through a 2-minute guided visualization and practice to ground, to essentially help you practice discernment. Because the more grounded you are, the more you'll remember, these are my thoughts. I'm not going to be affected by the anxiety and the worries of the group. I can be aware of them. I can allow them to inform me as part of the data I'm collecting, but it doesn't have to be me. I don't have to act as if they were my own feelings. Okay, so pulling a card for that energy on Friday, how to make the most of it. So the hardest part is over. So 10 of Wands is saying you've been through the struggle, you've gotten to the other side. But when you were making this move, whether from a home, a job, a relationship, whatever you are surrendering, so to speak, and getting ready to move on from, you packed a lot to bring with you. An overpacker. I am notoriously an overpacker. Do you overpack? Let me know. Let me know I'm not alone. I cannot pack light, no matter how hard I try. I think it's my Cancer moon. But that overpacking, the universe is saying, oh my goodness, honey, it's great that you want to be prepared for all these things, but you're not leaving yourself open to opportunity. And when I ask for an example, what I get is, it's great to be prepared for all possible happenings. But at the same time, sometimes not having something and being open and willing to ask, kind of like my son's an incredible Virgo and he's very prepared. And he's got jumper cables in his car and he's got like a fire extinguisher because he goes camping a lot and he's got all of the things. And many times when he's camping, he'll run into other campers who haven't brought those specific tools and they might need them, like their car dies because they left the back open while they were camping and the light drained the battery and he can jump their car. So I'm not saying don't be prepared. I'm just saying, be open. There's an incredible bond that happens, especially gals. Have you ever been in that position where you're like, oh my God, do you have a pad or a tampon? Can you spare a square? See that Seinfeld episode? There's a bond that comes. There's a realization we're human. We need each other. And that as prepared as we can be, if we're like hoarding all these resources and we're holding ourselves away, we miss out on connection and community. So bonding through the sharing, that's kind of what reminds me of, like, are we holding on to things that we're not using? So the law of use when it comes to manifesting or co-creating, if you're holding on to things that you're not using that somebody else could be blessed by, then you're filling up the space that your manifestations that you're calling for and wishing for, they can't come in because you're holding on to things that you're not using. Does that make sense? It's so fascinating. And when I bring this through, these messages I am channeling, I'm listening as well because I'm holding on to things that I am not currently using. I'm like, oh, one day. And sometimes, yes, one day. But there are some things that I probably will not be using one day that I need to let go of. All right. How about you? All right, so then Saturday, as we move into Saturday's energy, we start off in Aquarius, but remember, we're in that void moon. And then around noon, the moon goes into Piscean energy. So that Piscean energy, you might find out that you feel a little sluggish, you feel kind of out of it, a little mystical, a little spiritual reset, definitely. You might be more sensitive. Intuition might be a little bit more heightened. Use that time, do a sacred practice with water if you can. Maybe there's something you want to dissolve. You can write it down like on toilet paper and say, I'm going to let go of this worry. I'm going to let go of this anxiety and concern. I'm going to let go of this thought about myself, or I'm going to let go of, write it down and then flush it down the toilet and let it be released. That's a nice little simple practice. doesn't sound very spiritual, but it's healing. It's symbolic. It lets your cells know on a very deep level, I am willing to release and purge this. Let it go. So how can you make the most of this energy on Saturday? Wow, a lot of cards want to come out. Okay, I'm going to go through it, all of them. So we get that Eight of Swords coming out again. Let go of the thoughts that have been binding you. They've been keeping you in a place of grief and heartache. It's time to heal. How are you going to heal? Not by competing against other people and striving to be the best and be at the top. Think of the old growth forest. Be the best version of yourself that you can be in this situation and nurture what you've been building. Tend to your own garden. You know, if you're falling into comparison with others, you're going to constantly be in that struggle and constantly feel like I'm behind, I'm ahead, I got knocked down. Walk to your own beat, your own rhythm. You're really being encouraged to do that with this moon. It's like we're remembering that we're a part of a community and we want to bring love to that community, but not lose our identity and our gifts, because we're each bringing something unique to the table, which is so vitally important, because that's what creates the thriving and the growth in the forest. It's very interesting. You know, it's, there's so much to be learned in nature. And there was a show. Well, I won't go down that rabbit hole. All right, let me keep going. I have fun talking with you guys. Okay, Sunday. Sunday is the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. And I'm going to just pull a card and ask, how can you make the most of this energy? Okay. And oh man, these cards. Okay, hold on. We're getting a lot of cards. I'm getting a lot of cards. Okay, hold on. I'm going to do this again because I feel like I really want to tune in. When that many cards come out, something's off with the energy. Okay, so tuning into the full moon lunar eclipse energy on Sunday, what's the most important thing that all those watching need to know? Okay. Page of Wands. And the Page of Wands is a free spirit. This is a youthful energy. So we're excited, we're letting our hair down, and we're approaching things with exuberance. And I love this artist, Chris Ann. This is the Light Seers deck. And she has a lot of symbolism in it. And this circle here, I don't know if she intended for the circle to represent this, but circles represent community. They represent our spirit. They represent essentially the soul. And this, I'm going to invite you to think of with that fire energy, because Wands is fire. How can you celebrate yourself as a unique individual within the whole, within the community? So with this Piscean energy that's coming in, be aware of your spiritual gifts that you bring to the table. And there's a fun little analogy popping into my head to share with this. Think of yourself as part of like one of the superhero teams, you know, the Avengers or whatnot. And each of them bring their own unique gift. And on their own, sure, they're powerful and they can accomplish things, but they can't do it all by themselves. You need each one with their unique talents to come together. So tune into your superhero or heroine power and bring that to the table. Thank you so much for coming to play with me. It's always such a joy to join in community live each week, every Monday, 9:30 a.m. Please, drop a little heart in the comments, share this with a friend, like it, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'm so grateful for all the engagement. It really helps get these videos out to other people so that they can receive this guidance as well and these insights. And I'm so grateful for all of your support and you being here and doing this work. It truly means the world to me. And I'm so thankful for you, because when you do this work, you do make the world a better place. Until we meet again, remember, trust your vibes, follow your heart, and I will catch you all on the flip side. You're welcome, Hannah. Much love. All right. Have a great, great day.